Welcome to episode 5 of Sales is Cool. I'm Soumya, co founder of Scooter, and today we've got a powerhouse conversation with someone who's had an impeccable run in sales for over 25 years and just continues to keep forging forward. Meet Sunita Mohanty, the dynamo who's crushed it at tech giants like SAP, Microsoft, Oracle, Capgemini. Most recently, she served as the head of cloud success services for SAP India, where she managed their integrated P&L ops while championing cloud strategies throughout the region. Sunita takes us back to her first ever sales role, which she fell into by accident after B school, to becoming this renowned executive leader. She also shares what she's looking for when hiring sales talent and addresses the challenges women face in the corporate world with candor and practicality. This episode is pure gold whether you're starting out or gunning for C suite. So keep listening. One, two. Welcome to Sales is Cool, Sunita.
Thank you so much, Soumya. Thank you for having me and look forward to a really interesting chat on sales.
Awesome. So let's get started. You heard us describe your professional avatar. How would you describe Sunita, the person, a little bit outside of it?
Okay, I think I will call myself the ever smiling tech enthusiast.
Okay.
Um, I I am a person who's forever curious, always wanting to try out new things. And of course, on the personal front, I think what defines me is really my passion for traveling, for fitness. And, I combine the two when I do trekking. That is when I explore newer places. And at the same time, I'm challenging myself physically. So I think that, in a nutshell, is what describes me as a person.
Wow, lovely. Um, so I want to take us a little bit back to the past and maybe dive into a little bit of nostalgia. We'd like to hear from you what your first ever job was.
Okay. So, looking back, so I'm an MBA in marketing, right? And when I was doing my MBA, I got the opportunity to do my summer training at Wipro, and then went on to get a pre-placement offer from Wipro, right?
Okay.
And of course, the when placement season is on, when someone gets a pre-placement offer, they have to bow out of the whole placement cycle, right? So I joined Wipro as an enterprise account manager back in the day, and that's how my career in sales in the tech sector started. And it was more actually by serendipity, I'd say that, because as a marketing professional, I actually wanted to do more FMCG, but, landed myself my first job in the tech sector. Now, having said that, I think Wipro has been an excellent training ground. And I'm sure it still is for any young professional entering the workforce. It helped me build some really solid connections in the industry. I had some great mentors.
Yeah.
I think all in all, it was an excellent grounding for, a career in tech sales. And I don't think I could have asked for a better organization as a starting position. So actually no regrets, even though it was not maybe my industry of choice.
Right. So, how much or how little did you know about tech sales at that point, Sunita, when you were
Nothing. And which is why I'm saying that it was an excellent grounding. Wipro in those days used to sell a range of products and solutions. So there were
Yeah.
partnerships with, networking majors like a Cisco or a Nortel, and with computer networking. Of course, in those days there was Sun Microsystems was big,
Right.
and of course all of the large software vendors. So you got a flavor across the industry, right? So that's why I'm saying it was a great learning ground.
Yeah, that sounds like it. So, two threads that are coming out is A, you said right at the start that you're somebody who's very curious and that lends itself beautifully to tech. And the second, you're talking about building relationships and networking, for which Wipro was a fertile ground. So, how do you think you started establishing yourself as a sales professional?
So I think throughout my career, and I think this is something that I always do, is that, whenever I take on any role, throughout my career, I think every role that I've taken up, I've always asked myself, how do I want to be remembered?
Yeah.
What's the legacy that I want to leave behind? And therefore, I sort of define what is the big bet or the high impact. What am I going to do that is going to leave an impact, right?
Right.
So whether that is, really being a very solid, building a reputation as a very solid, dependable salesperson, or as a high performer, so, or, doing something first, like getting the first deal of this kind, a
Yeah.
market making deal. So I would always do that. And I think that is something that has stayed with me. And I always say this to my team as well, that you must leave shoes too big for the next person to fill.
So, on that note, as you started out and you grew in your career, who were some of the people who stood out to you and maybe, shaped or left a lasting impression on you?
So I think my biggest inspiration for a career in sales and marketing has its roots at home, and that inspiration came from my father, my dad. He was in the sales profession, and he used to work for some very large multinationals like Philips and Sony, and so he
Oh,
was my career model, if I could say so,
wow.
right? Because he was obviously always traveling, and I thought it was very glamorous to be always on a plane and flying here and there. That's really where I got my inspiration to pursue sales and marketing. But I think throughout my career, there have been some really great bosses that I worked with and learned a lot from them. Uh, I think I remember my first boss in Wipro. I think his sales acumen was amazing. For example, he would when he would review with me, he would tell me, Sunita, this deal, don't waste your time. It's not going to happen. This deal, go after it.
Yeah.
This deal, you need to do X, Y, Z. So, and at that point of time, I would wonder, how does he, how is he telling me don't do this? How does he know this is not going to happen? As a somebody who's new, every deal that comes to you, you want to go after it. You want to see what
Right.
you, and you would tell me, don't waste your time on this. Just drop this, go to the next one.
Yeah.
And so, that sales acumen, I think, was something that I really looked up to him. And I think I learned a lot from him. Then there was another leader who I thought was a great networker. I think great
Yeah.
relationships. And the little things that he would do in terms of building, just building a relationship with, and this is not just with customers, but also with peers, because in MNC, the networking internally, I think there's a lot more time and effort you spend trying to get things internally than actually trying to get in a deal. So I think that networking was another thing I learned from one of my bosses. So a lot of things that I've imbibed from a lot of these impactful leaders that I have worked with, uh, and I hope that has helped me in building my own brand of leadership.
Wow. Okay, that's a terrific answer. Almost foreshadows what I'm going to ask you next. You've mentioned many different facets that you picked up from all of these people. Now, what does Sunita look for when she's hiring a salesperson today?
Well, it of course varies across experience levels, right? I mean, you would look at different things depending on the industry. You would look at different things. So, keeping industry specific requirements out, I think on the whole, if I were to look at traits that I'm looking for in a salesperson, one of course is the personality of the person and the ability of the person to connect. Right? I think that is really key because sales is all about building relationships, right?
Yeah.
So the ability to really connect, to read the body language, read what people are trying to, because there's a lot of said and unsaid things. So being able
Mm,
to pick that up and being able to respond to it, I think is a key element for a salesperson, right? I think good communication skills and articulation, I think, is another key thing, right?
right.
Being able to tell a story is very important. And the whole problem solving mindset. You throw a situation at a salesperson, and you have to look at finding a solution, right? And every situation is new, right? Is different. I mean, there is nothing. Every sales situation that you come across has its own different nuances. So, lastly, I think it's about also the fire or the passion, right? The go-getting personality
Yeah.
is important. You tell them,
Yeah.
"Oh, this okay, I'll do that." No, this is not really okay. I won't do that. So,
Yeah.
I you need to have someone who's got some passion and fire
Right.
in him. So
Right.
that's something that those I would think those are the things that I look for in a salesperson.
Got it. That's super helpful and even more helpful to everybody who's looking for a sales role right now. Sunita, curious, what are some of the questions you end up asking applicants or candidates, and what are questions that have been interesting to ask, and you've got some good insights about whether this person would fit into your team or organization?
I think it's about how they've handled different situations, impact that they've made. So my question typically to them is that, give me a unique situation that you faced. How did you solve for that unique situation? And really, what's the aspiration? What's your ambition? What's the fire? What is driving you to do what you do? Because see, sales at the end of the day is a very self-motivating job, if I could say so. You have to wake up every day and motivate yourself, right? Today you are successful, tomorrow you're not successful. You have a great quarter, you're a hero. You have a zero quarter, you really have to motivate yourself to uh, go after success, right? So,
That makes sense. Sunita, your career trajectory is just fascinating, right? From leading sales organization at Fortune 500 companies, and now recently you managed an integrated P&L at SAP. Many of our listeners would be curious about that transition. So, could you walk us through how your experience in sales leadership specifically equipped you for P&L management? What were some of the skills or mindsets that you thought proved very valuable?
Somit, I think that's a great question. And I I'm very I passionately believe that sales experience provides a very, very solid foundation for broader leadership success. Because as salespersons, there are certain, I think, very essential skills, qualities that I think are very transferable
Right.
to a leadership role. And most of us sales people, by nature of our jobs, we work under pressure situations, right? These situations obviously build a lot of resilience in us as individuals. It sharpens our problem solving skills. And so, leaders who are coming from a sales background are, in my view, are are much more adept at navigating those challenges and being able to maintain that focus under stressful situations. To me, that's
Right.
a very, very important quality for a leadership position. The second, of course, is communication, right? Communication, relationship management skills undoubtedly are some of the areas that sales professionals excel in.
Right.
We have to be active listeners.
Hmm.
We have to build relationships, and these are not just building relationships with, like I said, with customers, but also with internal stakeholders. And these skills then become very important, not only in terms of effective communication within an organization, also when it comes to conflict resolution, stakeholder management in leadership roles, because you're going to be having to manage so many different functions in a leadership role, right? So being able to know what works for whom, how to effectively manage these different stakeholder uh, you know uh, requirements becomes very critical. The third one I would say is really, I think, situational leadership, right? And what I mean by situational leadership is that as sales leaders, we have to keep adapting our approach based on the sales situation or the customer's needs, right? So you
Yeah.
have to be thinking on your feet. You have to be balancing. You have to be thinking, working mentally through what is a win-win situation for us as well as the customer when it comes to managing different types of problems when you are in a much broader organizational role, because you will have to do this balancing act of knowing where you have to, uh, uh, where do you need to over leverage, where do you need to under leverage, right? And do that balancing. So I think that situational leadership is another very important skill that is easily transferable into a larger broadership group. So those are the three, I think: resilience, problem solving, communication skills, relationship management, situational leadership.
Wow, that was a masterclass in what it takes to succeed in sales. So thank you for that. It's so inspiring the kind of career you've had, both in terms of success and also endurance. We do have some stats for you here, right? Recently, a LinkedIn study said that women make up only 19% of the sales workforce in India. And 13% of sales leadership roles, and only about 19% of C suite roles in India. How does that make you feel?
Well, the statistics are definitely not encouraging, and especially with another Women's Day around the corner. It's a very relevant question.
Yeah.
In my last 25 years, Soumya, of being in the, in the professional world, I, while I do think that, gender equality has evolved over time, right? And I think corporates are making a lot of effort to provide an equal playing field, and to really look at competence, potential, ability, uh, re- rather than whether it's a male or a female.
Right.
But in my view, I think this gender equality, in some way, it sort of narrows as you're going up the corporate ladder.
Right.
And the reason I'm saying is that I s- I still see a lot of biases and prejudices in the system that need correction. Right.
Right.
So the overall system to me is still not acceptable. A woman in power. And
Yeah.
maybe I'll share some examples of what I mean by that. Maybe this is language. For example, you know, men are seen as assertive, right? But women are seen as aggressive,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, Men exhibit leadership qualities, but when women do the same, they're seen as bossy.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now these are perceptions, right? But this is how women are viewed, right?
Yeah.
So to me, the larger problem is the corporate world's inability to accept women leaders.
Right.
Perceptions and biases have to go, right?
Right.
And I don't think women really need help succeeding. What they really need is to have less people doubting their ability and get out of the way for women to be successful.
That's really well put. On that note, Sunita, do you think if you had to change the way we hire in order to tackle some of these biases and misconceptions that come into play, is there anything you would try to get companies to do differently?
If you look at most hiring strategies that happen, right, whether it is in leadership positions across the board, right, every company will say that we need to have a diverse interview uh, panel for one,
Yeah.
and we need to obviously have diverse candidates, right? So on
Yeah.
both sides, there is diversity that is being mandated, right? That there is diversity on the interviewing side, there is diversity in terms of the candidates that we are trying to get in. But ultimately, when it comes down to the selection, right, like I said, the the ability to do, when you look at, hey, gut feel, do I think he or she can do it? Somehow the gut feel is to put your bets on a male than a female, right?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
where I'm coming from, right? So if when you are trying to place your bets at a certain point in time, um, unknowingly or subconsciously, perhaps it tends to be, that I feel I will be more successful with, a male candidate.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's my view. So I think that is where, we've got to take our bets and say, can I look at it very, very quantitatively?
Yeah.
What has X achieved? What is this person capable of doing? What
Right.
is this person bringing to the table, right? Be very, very objective about it and keep personal biases, prejudices, gut feelings out of it.
You hit the nail right on its head. Some of these biases are so often just default responses that we all have
Yeah,
subconsciously and we don't even realize it, right?
absolutely.
Which is why intuition needs to be informed by, like you said, rigorous objectivity and processes. Sunita, my last question to you is, do you think sales is cool?
Well, sales is undoubtedly, as a career, it's a very dynamic career. It's a challenging career, and it is also an extremely lucrative career if you're successful in sales. Right? The commissions multiply. You can definitely be a very, very super rich salesperson as well. Right? So definitely, it's super cool. But I don't think sales is for everyone. So I think it takes a certain type of person to be successful as a salesperson. Everybody is really cut out for it. That's my view.
A very nuanced take, I must add. Uh, so this is bringing us to a rapid fire round, Sunita, where we'll just ask you about 3 or 4 questions, all light and quick. And whatever first comes to your mind, you should
Sure.
just go with that. Okay. So if you had to pick one, would it be A very swanky city apartment or a large countryside farmhouse?
Large countryside farmhouse.
Okay. The first app you check on your phone in the morning.
Um, Actually, I check my workout app.
Oh.
What is it that I'm doing today? What's my workout plan for today? And then I get on to the social media apps.
Amazing. That brings me to my next question, which a lot of us would want to copy from you. What is your favorite exercise routine?
Well, I love dancing, right? So for me, dance fitness is something I really enjoy, right?
Yeah.
Because it helps me burn calories. It helps me really get that, uh, how do I say, it's a very positive, endorphins that are released at the
Yeah.
end of that session, and you come back really feeling nice about the whole exercise session. But I think I also do a lot of weight training. So weight training to me today is very important because as you grow older and older, your muscle fitness becomes very important, right?
Yeah.
So, you have to mix high cardio with some amount of strength training as well. And that strength training also is something that is very, very challenging because then you are always pushing yourself to do more and more and more,
Yeah.
and so
Okay.
it's a balance of the two that I enjoy.
Dancing and weight training. That's a powerful combo. Any special ritual you have to celebrate wins?
To celebrate wins. Okay.
Yeah.
So in my previous company, what we would do is that we would always, when we had a large win or we would end a quarter, we would actually have a huddle, call out everyone's contribution, and there will always be some people who are obviously hitting the numbers out of the ballpark.
Yeah.
In the quarter, there will be somebody who's really not performed, or for whatever reasons has closed the deal. So it's very important to be able to provide that motivation to everyone, right? Sometimes luck doesn't favor you. Uh,
Yeah.
so we would use that as a forum to really provide the right motivation to the rest of the team members that, hey, you can do it too, you
Yeah.
can, you next time round.
Yeah, that's so important. Which now brings me to my and I'm not lying this time. My absolutely final question. Uh, many years from now, when somebody's listening to this podcast, Sunita, what would you like Sunita's legacy to be described as?
Yeah. Someone who's inspiring you to think out of the box,
Yeah,
challenging status quo, get out of your comfort zone. You will not, and I'm saying this woman to woman, right? It's more to the, and I would want to be an inspiration to a lot of the aspiring women, or be it in whatever field, may not necessarily be in sales. But the one message that I really want to get out there is that most of us as women, we underestimate our potential. We are scared to take on a larger role because
yeah,
we don't think we are ready for it, right?
yeah,
So my call out to a lot of the young aspiring women out there really is that have that confidence in yourself, put up your hand, take on a larger responsibility, even though you think you're only 50% ready, do it, right? Don't wait. You will never find the perfect opportunity,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So don't hesitate, have that confidence, go all out and put up your hand for larger opportunities. So that's
That's amazing. Believe it or not, I have goosebumps, and I'm hoping this message will spur a lot of us into action. Thank you so much for this, Sunita. It was an absolute pleasure chatting with you today. Hope you had as much fun as we did.
yes, thank you, and thanks for patiently listening to me give Gyan.
No, it was all very good gyan, so we're lucky to have that.
One, two.